Hello, BookTube, and welcome back. So it's the end of the year, folks. I have wrapped up my reading for this year. So I thought to myself, why don't I want to make a best of video for you? So I thought I'll separate them into two different sections as well: the best fiction and the best non-fiction that I read this year. Again, with the caveat, it's my opinion. I've also made the worst of books that I read. I'll put the link, little whatever it is, inside this video screen for you. So without further ado, I will do the best fiction books for today. And also as well, I am not including rereads this year. I did a lot of rereading, and I think the majority of the rereads this year was fiction. So I'm not going to include any of them because number one will always be The Count of Monte Cristo. So I've excluded all them. So I had something like, I don't know, about 30, 40 books left to pick from. And to be fair, a lot of them could have got onto the top 10 list. So I just threw a dart. And if you're lucky enough to get caught, you made it to the top 10. But these were still very good books that I read this year. And they're not all new, by the way, last caveat. They're new to me. Some of them were published a long time ago. So let's go. So number 10, it's a horror book. And this is Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. Now, this is a very demon-centered horror book. So a man comes into an orphanage right at the start of the book, and he's like crazy, he's possessed, and he gets put down in the orphanage, but the demon eventually escapes his body and finds one of the children to possess. And as the course of the novel goes on, there's a lot of brutality in this book, as it's kind of like a more like demonic. What's that book where all the kids are on the island? Not Lost Boys, that's the vampire film, innit? What am I thinking of? It'll come to me in a minute. Lord of the Flies, here we go. It's like a demonic Lord of the Flies, as all the kids start divided into two camps. The guys who are rejected this demonic presence, and then the kids who are with the demonic presence. And the priests that run this orphanage, just two of them who are quite ropey, kind of dicey, kind of grey characters, and there's one out and out good priest. And then it's pretty much the novel continues there between the battle of bad against the good. That's basically the gist of this book, and that's pretty much it. So I'm not usually a big horror fan, but this has got a good cast of characters to get behind. And when they're left alone with the demonic presence, you're like, oh no, they're gonna die, aren't they? So you have got that sympathy towards them, and there's a lot of horror violence in this. There's tons of it. So put that caveat out there. But if you like that kind of horror, what's going on? This is bloody. You're gonna like this book. There's some slow parts in this book, but overall, it's a really well done horror. Because sometimes horror can be a bit cliche and a bit boring, but I thought this was quite well done. So that is my number 10. Following on, now this one, number 9, was published a long time ago. This is a classic, and it's Jane Eyre, and this is by Charlotte Bronte. Now it's a timeless classic. Surely everyone should know this book. So it's about a woman who's mistreated at the start of the book by her auntie. She hates it. She wants to get out of it, and then eventually she gets given the position of governess halfway through the novel to this character called Mr. Rochester, and there's a bit of like a love resistance relationship going on in this novel. And then she finds out his secret, Mr. Rochester's secret, and then she finds out, oh no, I found this secret out, but I also love him. So it's that question of, do I stay with this man that I've fallen in love with, even though I know this secret, or do I abandon and go my own way, even though I'm in love with him? So that is pretty much the story of Jane, the main character. Now, the Bronte sisters were so talented, aren't they? I've read Wuthering Heights, and I'm about to read one of, is it Anne Bronte? One of her books in January. And again, this is, the writing in this is properly top of the notch stuff. It's good. It's very descriptive. It's well fleshed out. The great characterization. Yeah, you feel for Jane throughout this novel. But what I really appreciated, what Charlotte Bronte did, she kept Jane quite grounded, throughout the book, especially when she meets up and starts falling in love with Mr. Rochester. She kept her very level-headed and kind of modest, and I think it worked really, really well. So pick up this classic because it really is a good one. Okay, let's move on. Oh, okay. I'm looking down here, I'm scrolling up on my laptop, and number 8 is a fantasy book called Dawn of Wonder. This is by Jonathan Renshaw. Now, this is about it's got the fantasy cliches and tropes in it. This officer goes into this village, says all sorts of nasty things are going to happen, bad stuff's going on. So this fantasy character, what's his name? Oh, I forgot his name, begins with A, I think. I don't want to say Adolin because that's the Stormlight Archive, isn't it? Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Anyway, he leaves his village and goes to the big city to enter the academy where they train to be really special people. And there's loads of court intrigue when he's in the capital city, all the higher ups and the tops are wanting to elbow him, get him out the way, because he's basically showing them up. And there's all sorts of murder, there's betrayal as they're there, and basically this book ends with them going on a quest into the north to do so. I can't spoil it for you, but they think, the guys who've planned this think, okay, we've got rid of them now, they're going to the deaths, but the people who are on the quest know full right what's around the corner and are going to fight it. So that's pretty much the gist of the book. Farm boy, village boy goes to the big city, learns all these arts, and outshines everyone towards the end part, and then goes on a quest at the end. This is a self-published book, and I think he's done, what's his name, Jonathan, has done a really, really good job here. It is the flow and the pacing in this book, I thought, is really, really good for such a chunker of a fantasy as well. Again, it's one of those fantasies which are about 700 pages or whatever. And even though I said it was tropey, I still found the story quite intriguing. It does pull you in. And again, the characterizations are very vivid, very descriptive. You're not left guessing about okay, yeah, I don't understand, why they're doing this. You kind of, it's kind of well explained. So yeah, and that was a self-published book as well. I believe it won all sorts of awards about 10 years ago as well. Usually when a book wins awards, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll see about that. But it's a fairly well done fantasy. Oh, okay. Next one is again a timeless classic. This is the first time I read it this year, admittedly. This is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Yeah, the first time I managed to get round to it this year. It's a story about, surely everyone should know this story now. It's about Elizabeth Bennet, isn't it? And her kind of modest family, where she kind of meets this character called Mr. Darcy, who is a wealthy gentleman of the British upper class. And she kind of, at the start, she kind of resents him. She thinks he's kind of piggish and, snobbish. But eventually, as these tales go, they eventually fall in love, don't they? That's the story of Pride and Prejudice, if you don't know. Again, it's a classic for a reason. It's absolute the impact this has, especially if you're in the UK. So many spin-off, kind of robbing these themes to make other books. There's so many TV series. I think there's a film of this. The writing is excellent. It really is. It's the characters, the themes of love and marriage. It's a really, really excellent. It's a really excellent. I did it again. A really excellent classic. Everyone should read Pride and Prejudice. Moving on to number 6. Oh, well, the reason I chose this is because, like I said, I discluded The Count of Monte Cristo this year, as it's my favourite novel by Alexandre Dumas. So I read The Three Musketeers for the first time this year. I think there's more books of The Three Musketeers. I think there's 20 years later, The Man in Iron Mask based in that universe too? I think so. It might not be. But I love these books. Again, it's one of those classics to me to describe the plot of The Three Musketeers. D'Artagnan, who is he wants to be a musketeer, doesn't he? And he's really excellent swordsman. And he meets these other three musketeers, Porthos, Aramis, and Athos. Yeah. So we meet up with them, and they're the ones who fight for the king, want to do all that good stuff. And the cardinal's kind of setting up his own, his own version of the Musketeers, and the whole story is the conflict between those two forces. And there's a love interest in there as well. Again, love me some Alexandre Dumas. The characters are incredibly memorable. How many times has this book been pulled onto the major screen? Is it 2 or 3 times now, I think? And the reason because of that, because the story behind this is fantastic. As I said, the characters are incredibly memorable. It's those timeless themes, like I said, about Pride and Prejudice. It's about loyalty. It's about honor. It's about staying true to yourself, and there's a lot of funny parts as well in the Count of Monte Cristo. The Three Musketeers, especially the Three Musketeers before D'Artagnan comes into it. And everyone should read it. It's a classic for a reason, and that is The Three Musketeers. Okie dokie, jumping into the top 5. Okie doke. This is, I can never remember what the series is called. I think it's The Tale of Witness, and this is the second book. The third is coming out soon. I'm not too sure when. This is No Life Forsaken. This is by Stephen Erickson. I love, if you don't know, this is a sequel to the Malazan book of The Fallen, which is probably one of my top 3 fantasies of all time. You might be able to see them behind the V for Vendetta mask there. They're very dark, they're very grim dark. It's sneaking in the corner like ninjas. And yeah, this is absolutely massive in scale. Tons of characters. There's again, it's trying not to spoil what's going on because it's the second book of a trilogy. And mind you, it can kind of work as a standalone. The rebellion in the 7 cities has failed, and I can never pronounce that city called. Is it Gdanispan? I think it's Gdanispan, and it's something like that. And there's like a really terrible version of the Malazan marine system core is still there. It's not what it used to be, and the defense of the city from now this new prophets, these two new crazy prophets who want to conquer the rest of the 7 cities with this goddess. This guy called Aranfell is trying to make sure everything's okay and defend the city. And this new higher up comes in from the Empire, the Malazan Empire, to go over his head. And as we all know, if you've read the Malazan books, you know it's all about betrayal, the Malazan Empire. So you got that in your back of your mind all the time. Like, is this fella who's now come in, is he going to betray Arenfell and stab him back? Who knows what's going on? And then you've got, all the gods, working their magic deeds in the back corner, as any other Malazan Book of the Fallen. Now, if you've read the main series in the Malazan books, you'll you'll love these. The first and second book. It's very much the same flavour as the original 10. I even though it's massive in scale, there's a cast of thousands. There's a lot of plots, even though there's not as much plot as obviously the Malazan books, the first 10. There's still quite a few. But I love the characters. I love the world that Steven Erikson has built, and even there's a prequel trilogy to the Malazan books as well, which are probably denser than the sequel trilogy, but I still like them as well. But yeah, certainly if you like Malazan, the Book of the Fallen, pick up the sequel 2 books. They are really good, and they're pretty much the same flavour as the other 10. Okie dokie. Oh, moving on. I think so. This is number 4. So I think this was a buddy read that my brother chose this year. I think so. It was, yeah, because I wouldn't usually pick up a book like this. So this is Glorious Exploits. This is by Thedgar Lennon. I hope I've said his name right. So there's 2 main characters in this. So the Athenians have basically lost this war, and there's loads of prisoners of war in this city. And these 2 guys called Galen or something like that, and Lampo. These 2 characters, and they're like, oh, do you know what? I think the Potters or something like that, but they have aspirations of being writers and stage directors. So they're like, do you know what? They've got all these Athenians, prisoners of war, who are working in their mines right now. Why don't we use them to cast them in a remake of the play? What did it do? Medea, whatever it is, Medea. They're trying to redo Medea and cast the prisoners of war as the parts and all that. And obviously, sometimes the people who live there are absolutely resentful towards this. They should be locked up and treated bad because they attacked them basically. So that's the theme of this, and and then it goes on while they're doing the play, and the whole thing. Oh, I'm not going to tell you. Read the book. What happens in the end? Oh, did he get the play on its legs, or does something else happen? Who knows? Well, I know. Okay. So this book is told in a contemporary Irish way. A lot of historical fiction is it reads like somebody from England, so to say, somebody from the UK wrote it. This just reads like somebody from Ireland wrote it, and I think it really works quite well. I think it's really, really good. This is really, really funny. There's some really high points, but there's also some serious points, and this book can be quite moving as well, and you just absolutely fall in love with the characters in this book and the way they interact with each other. It is really, really a well done contemporary fiction. This. So if you want to give contemporary fiction a go, pick up this book. You won't go wrong with it. Pardon me. You won't go wrong with it. It's really, really well done, and that's Glorious Exploits. Okie dokie. Oh, here we go. 3. This is. And to be honest with you, when I picked this book up, I think again this was a buddy read, was selected by my brother. When I picked this book, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this sounds like it's going to be uber depressing. I'm probably not going to be liking it. But even though it is depressing, it is still a fantastic work. I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed it. This is a sci-fi classic. This is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. Oh my, this book sinks. It is fantastic, even though it's incredibly sad. This is about a guy with, I guess he's got special needs, and he's everyone who surrounds him kind of treats him a bit harshly. They're a bit nasty to him. And then he gets selected to take this wonder drug, this new drug that will increase your intelligence and the way you interact with society. You'll become a super genius. And so he partakes in a study, and it happens, and he becomes a super genius. But that's not where the tale will end. You need to go read it yourselves to see how this tale ends. It's only small. It's only about 200 pages or something like that. It's a sci-fi classic, and it is incredibly moving. It's a really well done science fiction novel. This, I can't remember the main character's name, but he is such a likable, sympathetic character. You are rooting for him all the way through this novel, and you really do feel for him. And the story is excellent as well. And when you read it, you can see where other books have also pulled this kind of idea from as well. So that is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. Go and check it out because it's really good. Okie dokie. So this is a kind of like a cheaty one, this again, because it's a series, and instead of me like putting like the individual books in the top 10, kind of like lumped them all together, to be honest with you, because otherwise I think there's 5 books in this series already, but I adore it. And this is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I think it's 5 books in the series right now, and this is pretty much a more up-to-date Agatha Christie kind of novels. They are like a humorous murder mystery of who done it. I think the most recent one has been The Impossible Fortune. Oh, a bit of backstory. It's about a bunch of old age pensioners. They're the guys who, it's kind of like a Miss Marple thing, they're the guys who get together every now and again to try and work out a murder or something that's going on locally. They're the crime solvers. And I think the most recent one was The Impossible Fortune, which is really good. As I said, there's 5. I think The Impossible Fortune and The Last Devil to Die was probably my favourites of the bunch. In The Impossible Fortune, they're trying to solve a Bitcoin murder, and they're trying to crack the code, get the code before the bad guys get it. And The Last Devil to Die, it's all about art. There's fraudulent art dealers, and there's murders going about all over the place. This book is excellent. These books, are excellent, and you'll fall in love with all 4 main characters, and they've all got throughout the series. They've got like this is their book really, and then that's their book, and some parts of it are moving. It's quite some deaths and whatnot, but other than that, these books are great. They're the kind of book you can just chill out and relax to, and I've read this in a couple of days. I can't believe that. They're that kind of books. Dead quick, easy to read. I was blown away how much I like these books, because murder mystery books are not really usually my thing. But yeah, go and pick up these. Any of these. You don't have to read them chronologically. You can pretty much pick one you want to read straight away. I mean, they refer to things back in earlier books, but other than that, they can read as individual volumes. So go and read any of the Thursday Murder Club books because they are fantastic. Okie dokie, and moving on to as number 1. This again, I can't believe how much I enjoyed this book. This is a work of fantasy. I kind of cheated here because these are actually 2 books that have been published so far, I think. The first book is better, I think, because I guessed what was going to happen in the second book, but hey ho. And again, it shares the same theme with the second book, even though it's number 2, The Thursday Murder Club. And this is the Shadow of the Leviathan series. It's 2 fantasy books, and it's The Tainted Cup and what's the other one called? I think it's A Tale of Corruption or A Drop of Corruption. It's A Drop of Corruption, and this is by Robert Jackson Bennett, the same guy who did City of Miracles, City of Stairs, whatever it is. I enjoyed that trilogy as well. And these two volumes are pretty much like a Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson fantasy. So you got this lead, cranky kind of, Sherlock Holmes character called Anna, who she doesn't like to leave the room, she wants to stay away. But she gets the Watson character, who is then to go out there and do the investigations. Now, as I said, this is a fantasy character, but the fantasy elements take a back seat here, even though they exist. There's Leviathans, which are massive big creatures in this that come up from the earth and attack the cities and whatnot. And there's killer plants, and there's all sorts of good stuff in this. And the main characters, some of the characters in this can take some sort of drugs to enhance their senses, that as they've been modified, and the guy then had some sort of surgery where just things in his head, and once he's took a snuff of this thing, his memory's top notch. You can just scan an area and he'll never forget where he scanned, basically. And these books are fantastic, and it drops all the the fantasy tropes that we all know and love. There's no massive wizard battles here. There's no dragons coming out of the sky. There's no farm boy becomes king. Any of this kind of stuff. This is kind of a unique fantasy setting of a murder mystery in a fantasy realm. The first one's about a plant that has killed a person, and they've got to kind of work out, who's done this, why they murdered this guy using this method. And the second one's about a greedy. I was about to tell you the end of the story then. It's about family troubles. Let's just put it that way. There's murders galore on the second part. But yeah, the characterization in these two books are fantastic. Din and Anna's relationship is so well planned out, I thought. And I think this is the most recent fantasy that I've read in a long time. And I'm surprised how much I enjoyed it. So if you've not picked up any of the two books in the Shadow of the Leviathan series, go and pick them up. Again, like the Thursday Murder Club, they read pretty much like standalones. Well, the two that's been released anyway. Even though they might reference a few things from the previous book, you can still read them pretty much independently. And that is it, folks. They are my top 10 fiction of 2025. And I'll wrap it up right here. I'll speak to you soon. Bye, BookTube.